Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, drummer Wild Mick Brown from Dokken. We talk about his new band, the Bourbon Ballet. We also talk about his time with Ted Nugent. But more importantly, we talk about Dokken and the upcoming reunion tour. Wild Mick Brown fills us in on some of the early details on what's going to happen. Japan and other territories are going to be very, very thrilled. So without further ado, let's get into all of this stuff, an interview that I'm sure is going to be heard around the world. The one, the only, Wild Mick Brown. We are speaking with Wild Mick Brown of...
Hi, Mitch.
Good day. Good day, Wild Mick Brown. How are you?
I'm fine. I think the last time we got together was in Heavy Montreal, right?
Yes, in August of last year, which was a great event, great show.
I thought it was, it was very hilarious to us because it's a 2 or 3 day event, and nothing but every hardest band in the, heavy metal band in the world. And here's in the middle of it all was Dokken and Warrant right in the middle of this. I thought, I was a little bit like, I wonder how this is going to go over,
But it was great
and,
because...
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because there was the lead singer of Randy Blythe of Lamb of God and Corey Taylor of Slipknot, and they came out side stage for the Dokken set, for the Warrant set, and for the Fozzy set, and Corey Taylor stood next to me on the side stage, and he sang every single Dokken song, lyric for lyric, and it was entertaining because I was getting Dokken and sort of Slipknot in stereo singing "Breaking the Chains" and all. It was wild, absolutely wild.
Well, it's good to see. Listen, if I liked it, it doesn't matter what style music you play. If you liked the band in its day, or even if you didn't, if you heard those songs enough times, which obviously those guys did, they came out to see what it was about, and that's nice of them to do that.
Yeah, and Corey said, he goes, Dokken is the only band I wanted to see. It's the only reason I came here. And it's like, well, okay, you came here because your band's playing, but okay, you're here for Dokken. So that was great. He was a huge, huge, huge fan. So there you go, compliments for that. So let's get on to your new project, Wild Mick Brown and the Bourbon Ballet.
Correct. I met a friend 5 years ago here in Arizona, and he's been bugging me. Well, actually, my whole life. Everyone's been bugging me. Why don't you get your own band together, Mick? Why don't you do something? Why don't you do... And I just, kept putting this aside because I thought, well, no, I've got enough with Ted Nugent and Dokken and all these other bands I was playing in, Lynch Mob and Montrose. I thought, no, my hands are full. I don't really need to do it, and I'm fine. And so finally, it came to the point where this guy just said, listen, I don't know what's holding you back from doing it. I said, well, listen, I've never done any of the business myself, ever. There's always been someone to do that for me. I don't really know how to do it. And he says, I do know how to do it. He has some music entertainment group that he started up, and he said, I'll take care of it. And so I said, well, if you'll do it, this is what it's going to take for me to do it, And so basically just put it together, and I thought, well, let's just celebrate, let's just start out easy here and celebrate the music of the bands that I've been in. So I've done one show with this band in California, and currently I'm stopping a booking agent, but I can't go into that right now. But we're just celebrating Dokken music, Ted Nugent music, Lynch Mob music, and Montrose music, and that's what my set list consists of. We're playing 4 songs of Dokken, 4 songs of Ted's, 4 songs of each band, and I think it's, to me, it's real fun because I get to relive all those bands in one night, and pick out my favorite songs for them. So I think it's a lot of fun. I have 2 musicians. Chris Cotero is the bass player from Phoenix, Arizona. Scott Hammonds is the singer. He's from Arizona. And these guys have their other bands too. Scott Hammonds is in one of the greatest tribute band, Def Leppard tribute bands there is,
Yeah.
And so these guys, they all say, listen, the bands who make all the money these days are the ones that are doing the tribute stuff. And I thought, well, okay, let's, see how that goes. I have a guitar player named Jeff Parembo from San Diego. We call him El Jefe, affectionately called El Jefe. And these guys did a great job. We had a lot of fun playing together, and we'll just see where this goes, And the only reason I was I had real intentionally I wanted to call it the Bourbon Ballet or just Bourbon Ballet, and they said, no, you got to use your name, Mick, to get our foot in the door. And I thought, well, if it means we can do that, then we'll do that. So that's how it became Wild Mick's Bourbon Ballet.
Yeah, and of course, and you've got Chris in there from Razor. Razor, of course, is under the guidance of Alan Niven, who used to manage Guns N' Roses and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. And
Chris is the one that knows all the technology stuff. I've been so out of touch with how bands work in today's world. We called up this place in San Diego. It's one of the House of Blues, and we called them up to find out about a show. And this guy called and said, listen, I got Wild Mick Brown's got a band. Well, who's Wild Mick Brown? Oh, he's in a band called Dokken and Ted Nugent and Lynch Mob. They go, well, who are those? He goes, well, how old are you? The guy says he's 30. He goes, you never heard of Dokken, Ted Nugent, Lynch Mob, or Mantra? No. And he goes, well, he's played in 3 of those bands at your club 22 times, you know? So the guy says, well, have him do a demo. So, and a video. I'm like, they came back with his info to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got to do a demo? And they're like, well, that's what it takes today. And they got to have these websites and these demos and these. And I thought, well, did you feel like I was nominated for a Grammy in 1980 something, you know? And I'm an original member of these bands and of a couple of these bands, and I wrote the songs. You know, can we just send them the original recordings and the MTV videos that we've done for me? You know? And they said no. So I had to redo all this stuff. It completely shocked me. You know, I was like, oh my God, these poor bands of today that are trying to do things, they have to give everything up. I mean, there's nothing. I don't see how they can make any money. I mean, they just give everything up to their website and just share it with everybody, you know? And I was just appalled, but there it is.
Yeah,
I did it.
It's crazy new world.
Chris helped me do it, yeah. And Chris had to know how to do it, so we did it.
Yeah, Chris is great. He actually, in 2013, I put out a KISS tribute album for a palliative care home here, raised over $35,000, and Chris was kind enough to donate a Razor track for that.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah, so he's a great guy, and of course Alan Niven helped with that too. So there you go. Is the band just going to do a tribute to your musical heritage, or at some point do you create new music and have
I think at some point they'll probably create new music, but you know, I mean, it's just too early to tell. I mean, like I said, we've done one show, and you know, let's get some shows behind us and see where that goes, and then you know. But I mean, what's the incentive of creating new music these days? You know, it makes me wonder. I mean, how do you? I need to talk to Chris and like, well, if we're making the music, where do we make our money? You know, I mean, I'm all about the artistic creativity. I love that, but you know, unless I make a living doing it, and you know, I don't know. You know, if it's just created to give it away, I'm not really that into it. But you know, if it's created to make $1, I'm all about it. But you know, I don't know where that stands. But I know the guys want to do that.
Yeah, and I've you know, every time a band puts out a new album, you know, I just spoke to Nikki Sixx the other day, and I spoke to Stephen Pearcy yesterday, and I always say to them, well, why bother, right? You've got this brand, this heritage. People show up at the club to hear you do, in Stephen's case, you know, Round and Round. In your case, of course, it's not. So why bother? Why give them a pee break?
You know, that's my question too. Why? I don't have that answer yet, so there you go. I'm with you. I mean, do you have an answer for it? Maybe you can enlighten me here.
Well, you know, listen, I'll give you the answer that Nicky said to me the other day. He said,
I'd like to hear what he's got to say.
He said, an artist makes art, a photographer takes pictures, and he went on, and he said, so I'm an artist, and so I need to create, and it's not about how many people are going to listen to it, it's about just being creative. And so it's like, okay,
that, I understand it. Coming from a guy who's made millions of dollars,
yes,
I can understand that. I mean, right. I'm with you. You know, I feel the same, but listen, if you look at my bank account, it's far, far off of what Nicky's is. Okay,
right.
And it is a different realm for me. Listen, you know, I mean, what could it hurt? I mean, to do new stuff. I mean, it hurt? It couldn't. But it does. You know, at times it costs you know, the band or me money to do these things. You want to at least cover that cost, and make some. You know, I mean, here it goes. You know, here's art just being given away. When back in the day, you know, you could make who knows what, I mean, we used to write songs and all of them seemed to do really well in the 1980s and, have records on the wall to prove it. But today I can just do the same kind of work and, get nothing for it.
You get nothing for it. So is the main focus then going to be the live shows and are you going to start?
I think. Don't you think today's today's world is only about? I think the live performance arena is very much alive. Probably more so than people. That's where it is. You're selling tickets, you're selling merchandise, you're creating that. There's not a record sale anymore, or what we used to call records. So I would think that's where it's at. That's what it seems like in my world to be where it's at for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I agree.
Even more so. I had to even create a second band and find out that I could be in Ted Nugent as well as Dokken at the same time, and then bounce around. It became that.
Yeah,
I never thought that would happen.
It becomes a question of survival. And by the way, if you do want to play Canada, I'm a silent partner in 2 clubs. I can bring you up here. We had Piercy last night. It was fantastic. So,
wonderful.
We'll talk about that after that. You mentioned Ted. And, of course, Dokken. Let me start with Ted Nugent. After, I guess, 11 years, it was, you decided that it was time to move on.
Well, I kind of decided that was time to move on, and then we got an email saying he was going to move us on. So he wanted to do something different this year, and he said, I'm going to try some different musicians. So Derek St. Holmes and I, and we are out this year. Greg Smith, the bass player he's been using for 8 years, going on to 9 now, I guess, is going to remain. At this point, his tours, he's not a young guy anymore, and his tours are getting kind of short. And I thought, well, I don't, and then sometimes he takes a year off, and the last show I played with him was this month, a year ago. So I thought, I don't really need Ted to be financially helping me anymore. So I figured it was time to leave. And but listen, I'll tell you what, it was the greatest 11 years experience of my musical career playing with him. I had no idea what it was like to play for somebody else. I'd never done that. Dokken, we were kind of our own worst enemies. And with Ted, it was quite an experience to come up to a profession. It really shined up my professionalism. You had to be real good. Ted doesn't like second place. And to make him happy takes quite a bit. And when you do that, you feel real good about it. And I felt very good about that. I remember one time him and his son were looking at me in about my 7th year. They looked at me kind of strange in the dressing room one time, and I said, what the hell's the matter? And they said, well, we were just discussing that you've been in the band 7 years now. Ted's never kept a drummer more than 3. And I went, well, let's up that price a little bit, and that didn't work. So anyway, I ended up staying for another 4 more years. So I think I really, conquered to do a whole decade with the man, that is quite an achievement. And I always tell everybody that I'm the longest member other than Ted. And Derek St. Holmes hates it when I say that because he thinks he is. And I think, Derek, I don't know. I've been in the band for a whole lot of time. I think you've been in and out a few times, but not a whole lot of years. And he gives me a bad time about it. So we just, in respect to him, I just kind of shut up when I'm around him.
So how was that with Ted? Correct my assumptions here, but I assume that with Dokken you had some input in terms of creative output and what.
Oh no! With Ted I really had none.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. So how was it just being sort of, I don't want to say a bit player, but just being a hired guy? Was that a hard role?
I had to learn how to do that because I like to get involved, and that's where I came from. I thought that's what every band did. And at one point, after a few years, the tour manager said, listen, just shut up and let him do what he's going to do, and you're just going to do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So then, it took me a few years to get the hang of just being a guy like that. But once I got the hang of it, I thought, fine, it took the pressure off, actually. It was just like to do what Ted asked you to do. And but he did listen, when we'd be rehearsing and things like that. sometimes you'd come up with an idea. No, let's end it this way, or let's tag, little creative parts that we were coming in and out of songs. And I got my part in that way, and that was nice. And Derek, I remember, looked at me one time and said, "It's amazing that he listens to you so well, and you really get through to him in these rehearsals because no one's ever done that." And I thought, well, great. I mean, I'm glad he can. If he feels there's a good idea, go with it. No matter who it's coming from. But it's basically, I'm just, like you said, I was a hired gun. And I thought that was, listen, today's world, that's where it's at. I know the bass player, Greg Smith, that I was playing with, and Ted Nugent, he plays with the guys in the Turtles that do those hippie fest tours, in the summers with all the 60s bands. And, he's hired with everybody, and he taught me how to just shut up and play.
or as Ted's last album was called, Shut Up and Jam, right? I mean, that was the last album.
Exactly.
So, and you got to play on that. Was that interesting to play? Because, Dokken music is, to me, very unique. It's very special. I've been a Dokken fan for, 30 years at this point. When you think about it, right, it was like 85. I mean...
Yeah, 84 when we came out.
84, and I saw you...
36 years this year. Actually, George John and I got together in 1980, so 36 years of playing with those guys, yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you, I believe it was the first time opening for Aerosmith on the Permanent Vacation tour in Montreal. I think... Absolutely, I remember that night. I don't even know if I saw you before that, but I know for sure I saw you that night, and that was to me, that was a heavenly kind of moment because I was a huge Aerosmith fan. There was like only 3,000 people in the place, which was too bad. But Steven came out and said, we're going to play for the hardcore motherfuckers. And they did a set list of the craziest stuff like Bone to Bone. And, of course, Don and you guys had opened up first. And it was. I
remember that night exactly. There was a moment in that night, and I thought, it might sound like I'm bragging here, and I am. But we had just sort of started that tour with Aerosmith, and the first week was pretty shaky with those guys. They were all over the map with their set list. It didn't seem real organized. They just started sort of getting it together. It was coming to getting stronger every day. And Jeff and I, we had finished our set that night, and we went, got our cocktails and said, well, let's go out the side of the arena and watch. So, you can walk out these little tunnels and sort of hang outside. We walked out just as Steven Tyler was saying, listen, we want to thank Dokken for inspiring us to be a better band. And I looked over at Jeff, and Jeff said, did Steven Tyler just say that what I think he said? I said, sounded like that to me. And we were just like floored, and then they only became stronger and stronger, and pretty soon there was just no contest anymore.
Yeah, it was, it was the beginning of their return, and it was really just a glorious, glorious night.
I really caught a bit of history watching that, watching the set list change and things, because they would just throw in something at the moment, and you go, God, that's my favorite song. I'm so glad they're playing that song, and it was always a surprise, it was real fun.
Yeah, it was a great night. So let's look, and I do want to get to the whole Dokken thing, but before we get to that, the TNN album, which was Slave to the Empire, where you took back some of the Dokken songs, and you worked with George and Jeff without Don. How was it making that album? Now, of course, that was 4 years ago, 2012. What was that like? Was there a plan to be more of a band and make a second and third album?
Well, you know what? There was talk of it, but I didn't. I thought, well, let's get through the recording, one step at a time. And obviously there was just no time. Jeff just didn't seem to have any time with Foreigner. I mean, we've been trying to put this Dokken thing. He's been talking about putting the reunion guys together for years, and it's sort of waiting on Jeff. But it was fun to do the recordings because we knew with the song, all the work was done, we just had to do it. And then we got to take and do some different versions of it with the recording techniques of the Pro Tools and things like that, where you can cut these songs up, really easily and make different versions of them. And it was really neat to hear what we sounded like with different singers. The Doug Pennick's version of Tooth and Nail, I thought just was a home run,
Absolutely. And we mentioned Warrant at the top of this on Heavy Montreal. You had Robert Mason doing It's Not Love, and that guy is just a hell of a vocalist. I mean, he's just fantastic.
Yeah, and he was sort of discovered by George Lynch and myself in the Lynch Mob days. and that's where he made his appearance, And
right.
it was fun to do all this. And the only bummer about it was we had the version that came out was part 1, and we have part 2 recorded. It's somewhere at Jeff's studio, and I thought, well, let's follow up on it, and we never followed up on it, and I'm a little bit disappointed about that, but there you go. I don't know, when at one point maybe that can come out again. And I thought it would be fun, let's get part 2 going here and add a bunch of there was a track where I sang lead on a track, and George didn't know it, but he came in and said, oh, who's this guy? Sounds really good. Jeff goes, that's Mick. And he goes, oh, like surprise, So, I would love to see part 2 get there, finish the work you started. And I was a little upset with that. And then, I hate letting people think that, there's going to be a band, and then there wasn't, So,
when you say,
I don't know what to think. It was a fun little project and didn't hurt anybody. But, it didn't really, what was the point?
When you say part 2, do you mean a full, 10 songs, or do you had 3 ready to...
I think we have another 10 more songs probably that are recorded and need singing on, and we just haven't finished it.
Oh, well, I'll definitely...
I know I played on, 14, 15 tracks at least, so maybe 16. I don't remember actually, but I know that, we had originally intended to do a part 2. And that was supposed to follow up 9 months later. Never did.
Oh, well.
And maybe you'll never hear about it again. But, maybe at some point it'll show up.
It's definitely time to put a call into Jeff and tell him to finish that thing. All right. So,
right.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, come on, let's go.
Hey, Jeff, take a day off and come in here and do this.
So let's talk about Jeff. Recently I spoke to Mick Jones of Foreigner, and he talked in 2017 of Head Games reunion tour with Lou Gramm and all that, which means that Jeff is going to have some free time. Does that suggest at all that the Dokken guys can get together?
Oh, this is the first I've heard of that you're telling me, so I haven't a clue. And I really am, listen, if there's talk of us doing something in Japan that's coming up, at the end of this year, and if that happens and we make it through that, then yeah, maybe there could be some talk to some of the things. But that's again, I'm like one step at a time, guys. I know how we are. Let's see us just get through that. 6 shows, and if we can do that, well then yeah, maybe we can move ahead. But I don't know. It's just up in the air. We'll just see how it goes.
So we've got these 6 shows that you're talking about in Japan coming up. What is it that prevents George and Don from getting along? Because as we get older, at some point you just got to let go of all this stuff, right? And just say, okay.
Well, you would think so, but listen, some people don't change. It was something that was there from day one, and it's never going to go away. It's never has gone away. And that's what's making me feel a little bit hesitant about getting together again. I'm like, I've already lived this 30, for so many years. Jeff and I were just like, oh God, we have to go through this with these guys, there's no stopping it, And so, I'm just thinking, I haven't seen a change in either one of them really, so I don't know what to expect, But hey, I'm willing to find out, in spite of ourselves, we always seem to do well. But so our manager used to tell us, he goes, in spite of yourselves, you guys are really making me mad because you're getting real famous, and you shouldn't be, because you're just a horrible bunch of guys together.
Okay, so then let me ask you about that. What is your part and Jeff's part in all of this? Can't you two, take Don out to supper one day and have a sit down with him, and then take George out?
Yeah, we've done that for
30 years.
The whole time. And it comes to a point where you go, this is just not going to change it. And then it starts to eat us up alive. You have to decide, well, I'm in or I'm out, and just let it go and play ball with it, or somehow it seems to work. Like you said, it works out, but it's never very easy. And, I'm sure it's not going to be this time either. So,
well, I certainly hope it is. But here's the other thing that gets to me is that there are a lot of bands that come and go, and a lot of bands break up and change members, and fans go, yeah, whatever. But for Dokken, people keep saying, come on, let's do it. and people have been saying this for 15 years. So you've obviously got something that fans want. There's got to be a way to just say, hey, you know what? Let's go make a few bucks. Let's put out a new CD, and let's just do it for the guys.
Well, you know, that's what I would like to do. But, you know, listen, if I have to be real honest with you, it's the money we're doing it for, not the and I think that's the wrong reason. I think the reason should be we want to play together. And I don't think anybody wants to play together, but the money we're being offered to do it is, you know, you can't say no. And that, to me, that's the wrong reason. But there it is.
Okay, so let me ask you about that, because fans, you know, when Guns N' Roses got back together, they go, oh, they're cashing in, but aren't we all cashing in? I mean, isn't the guy that's going to be a teacher in the morning cashing in? Isn't the guy that's going to, I mean, don't we all show up to work to cash in? I mean, isn't that part of the deal?
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
I guess. Listen, like I said, I'd rather go excited about playing with the four guys again, like, oh man, it's going to be really great. What can we do? And what can we recreate? You know, let's put out some new songs. But I don't feel that way. I just feel like, wow, we're just going to go do. I'm already happy playing with the Dokken I'm in now, with
right.
John Levin and Chris McGarville and Don. At one point, Don and I owned the band. I had to sell my portion back then because I realized I'm dealing with a guy who doesn't play ball with someone else anyway. So I'm a fool to hold on to it. So here, buy it from me, Don, you know, and I've sold it. So now at least we have one person in charge. that might help. And so there is one guy that can say yes or no. Don owns that name. He is the sole owner.
He's the sole owner
of the name Dokken. So, you know, I'm going to approach it like I'm working for him, and which I am anyway. But, you know, I'm going to say, okay, it's your ball. What are we doing? You know, and when he calls his shots, I'm going to go ahead and do it. You know, where I think Jeff and George probably thought, oh, we're just going to get back together just like old times and split everything and be the good band we were. And no, I don't think that's ever going to happen because Don knows he owns it all now, and he is the boss. I mean, he signs my check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and I'm sort of taken aback at this point because when you've been in something for 30-some years, as we discussed, don't you want to have some ownership and say, hey, man, this is as much mine as anybody else's?
I had that, but that turned into a problem. I mean, when people are doing business as a partner and you don't want them to do that kind of business, you can get in big trouble in lawsuits, and then I'm part of that, you know. So, you know, I was forced to you know, take a look at what's going on in life and go, okay, I don't really need problems, so I'd rather just get paid.
Right. Okay.
And, you know, I hate boring fans with my personal details or anyone's, you know, it's nothing I really like talking about. I'd rather be talking about the art form. But, you know, a lot of times, you know, I mean, the art form's done. I mean, we did it. You know, we made that music. Now it's just down to these business details, you know, which seems like the whole world's kind of at it these days. It just, like, drives me nuts.
Okay,
you know.
So let's look at the classic Dokken, because how much of it was art and how much was commercial? Because at the end of the day, you did have the guy at the AOR department saying you need to get this on active radio, you know, active-oriented, album-oriented.
Well, we never
rock.
seemed to have a problem with that. We had a lot of good people working for us. Elektra Records did really well with us, and we never seemed to have any problem coming up with the music. We had a lot of problems when we started fighting when the mixing started happening, you know, or no, I want it this way, or, you know, the album cover should look like that, and then touring and, you know, fighting with this manager who was Cliff Bernstein and Peter Mitch were probably the most powerful managers on the planet, and we would be second guessing them, you know, like they already fought 5 years ahead of us what we were going to be doing, and we couldn't, you know, we just couldn't deal with that, you know. So we were
funny.
Killing ourselves, you know. That's not funny, really. It's pretty sad, but that, you know, that's how it went.
Well, still,
and looking back now, it's easy to see that we just should have shut up and did what we were told to do, and just played the music end of it and let the business people. But no one does that, you know. In our band, everybody got involved.
Well, yeah, everyone got involved, but let's hope these 6 shows go well. And let's hope that in 2017 you can get out there and do 20 shows or the festival runs in Europe, you know, the downloads and the walk-ins and all those things, because it's enough already.
You know, I don't know if it's a plus to have the original members or not. I'm not. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I think Dokken does real well without the original members, and we've built that for so long that people don't. I mean, that's a long time to not have the original members around, and when they come back, I don't know if that's going to be. It's like, wow, works. Is that a huge plus? Maybe in the recording end it might be, But there we are, back to that. Where's the incentive of that?
Yeah, and of course, so let's look at the last album that Dokken made. The band was Broken Bones. Now, you weren't on that one, or very limited, right?
I don't think I appeared on that at all. That's the first one I don't think at all I didn't appear on. At least the other, some of the other ones. Well, I mean, it got very confusing when I was playing with Ted Nugent and Dokken. Don would say, "Listen, would you come back and finish writing with me? I need your help on this." Yeah, so I'd have to say no to the Ted Nugent, some Ted Nugent stuff, and then a record that Ted Nugent wanted to do with me, and I said no to that because I was committed to Don. So I went to work with Don, and we didn't get anything done in time. So then I missed both. I mean, then when I went back to Ted to do the tour, Don went and did the record without me. And I thought, well, I'm just screwed on every end here. This isn't working out for me at all. So, it became very confusing. And eventually he just figured out I can just do the record without Mick and, blah, blah. And he did. There are deadlines and things that he has to hit. So, and he's never really good at that. So I'm sure he just went along with it anyway. Listen, it didn't all work out the way I planned it to, but there you are. In the meantime, I was getting paid anyway, playing with Ted. At least I had something going on,
Was that strange for you, though, to see a new Dokken album on? And I guess I'm assuming that was the first one you weren't on.
I could see where it was going, and I mean, it didn't seem like anything we were putting out anyone was really that interested in. So I just wanted to get paid. I enjoy playing music, and I like to get paid to do it because that's what I do for a living, and that's really all I really care about anymore.
Right, and so that.
I mean, it doesn't seem to be the big prize isn't there like it was when we started out as teenagers and then turned into Dokken. I mean, there was a prize, and the prize was what all these gold records and platinum records I have on the wall, and the money we were making, and being famous on MTV and all this crap, And that was a great prize. Now there's none of that. I don't see any of that prize there anymore. I wouldn't know. Like I said, I didn't know how to approach it. And I didn't realize until we called up the House of Blues, and then no one knows of the bands I was in anyway. And I had to do a demo tape and a video just to stay. So I'm just like any guy off the street now, coming with my new band.
You've got a sizzle reel and all that at this point now. So
right.
Which is great. Listen, it's the new way. So you've got the Bourbon Ballet, and I'll get off the Dokken thing, because I just got to say, just get in a room with the four of you, go do fucking 40 shows, excuse the language, and stop. Just stop everything.
Listen, I tell you what, you sound more excited about it than I do. If you can play drums, here, I got some sticks for you.
Yeah, I'll take over. Why not? Oh, that's funny.
Listen, I'm sure it'll be. When we actually get down to we're going to start rehearsing and let's get a set list, it's going to get exciting then. I am going to be excited. And there are going to be some fantastic moments that are going to happen magically when the four of us play together, because it always did. And listen, I'm grown up. I've been through a lot of fantastic moments. I'm just waiting for that one to come around. It's not here yet.
Yeah, so there you go. So we'll finish then with a Bourbon Ballet. You've got that first show under your belt.
The Bourbon Ballet, I'm just, hopefully this is just going to fill up some of the downtime where Dokken isn't working. I mean, I plan to stay in Dokken, and I'm enjoying that a lot with the guys I'm with now. I'm having a great time with that. And hopefully I can swing some, we don't work quite as much as I'd like to, but that's why I created this band. Or my friend kind of pushed me, and he said, why don't you quit bitching about it and do something about it? I said, okay, help me.
I'm with you there. Now you mentioned the current lineup of Dokken, and you didn't mention Mark Bowles. Is he out at this point, or is he
Mark Bowles is out.
Okay.
Don and Mark they weren't together. Mark's busy. He's a busy guy. Even in that Vegas thing, what's it called, Rock Vault?
Yeah, the Rock Vault.
And that's like a real job. 6 days a week, and 2 on Sunday or something like that. So I mean, it was clashing with our schedule. And it was difficult for Mark to fly in on times and things and make these, make it. And so that really upset Don, and eventually they just came to terms with like, hey, listen, you stay in Vegas, I'll get a new bass player.
Gotcha.
That's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
I enjoyed playing with Mark. I had a great time. I think he's a great singer, and he added a lot to the Dokken because Dokken has so much singing going on. But Chris McGarvey was pulling it off very, very well as well. And I'm telling you, man, there's still some incredible moments when this band plays with these guys. It's just wow, you know. I mean, there's something about our songs from that period that touch people. And like you said, those guys singing that stuff on the side of the stage, that happens quite a bit. And that's something that, you know, behold, you know, I mean, you don't want to just throw that away. So I enjoy that.
Yeah,
you know, and it's, when it touches somebody, it's always good, like, wow, they get it. You know, they were really there in the moment.
And John's has been a great addition to the band.
Oh,
in fact,
God,
how long has he been there?
Know?
It's been like 15 years now or something, right?
Almost 17, I think. maybe longer.
Mackerel.
Yeah, he's been in longer than. Well, okay, he's the next longest member than Don or I. You know, people always talk about George. Oh, is George going to be with us? Well, George has been in the band for 25 years. You know, so. You know, there he is. He's been filling that spot for quite a while and does such a great job doing it. I really enjoy playing with him.
Yeah, he's great. I guess we'll leave it at that because I could go on for, you know, we could go through all the different albums and stuff, but we'll put that out there. And, of course, if you do want to come play Ottawa and Toronto, you know, send me an email. We'll make it happen. I'm sure you would love it. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sure I would. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah. And we can make that happen. And so we'll encourage people to go see Wild Mick Brown and the Bourbon Ballet at a club and theater near you. At a gig near you. And we'll look forward to these Japanese Dokken dates. Hopefully you will.
Yes, I'm sure this plot is going to thicken and the story is going to be wonderful. And I'm sure we'll make it through it. But, you know, it's coming and it's building. So we'll just see where it's going.
and I believe there's going to be product associated with it, meaning that I've understood, if I've understood correctly, that it'll be recorded for either a DVD package or a CD package or a combination of both. And
I'm hoping so. I mean, so much you catch the moment, you know. You never know what's going to happen, and you might as well grab that piece of history.
Yeah, absolutely. And there we go. And actually, let me get one quote on Jeff Pilson. That man is a maven at everything when it comes to the studio stuff. What was it like for you working with Jeff, and what does Jeff mean to you? And talk maybe a little bit about his studio skills.
Well, you know, I think it's wonderful. Jeff, it's a perfect marriage, Jeff, in a recording studio or anything, you know, to do with music, because he's constantly involved in it. I don't believe he has one part of the day where his mind isn't on music. And to work with him, you know, he knows his equipment really well. I was a little rusty going in there. We hadn't played a lot. And I hadn't been in the studio in quite some time. So he did put up, I mean, we got through it in a hurry, but I wish I could have been more studio conscious. You know, sometimes when you get done with something, you go, well, we'll use that track. And you go, God, if I just would have done it, you know, which is the artist's biggest enemy, you know. But to work with Jeff was great. You know, he knew exactly what to do. I knew how the songs were going to go. We were on the same page. You know, it just went like a piece of. And the only problem is George would come down and show up, and he'd want to start changing his guitar sound, and I'd have to stop and go, hey, today's drum day. Guitar day starts when I'm gone. You know.
Yeah.
Jeff would get a big laugh at it, like, well, I guess he told you, you know, we're just going to worry about the drums, so don't worry about your guitar yet, you know. It was funny to put it, you know, like, hey, I'm only here for the moment, let's get my stuff done. You guys could do this without me when I'm gone, you know.
That's great. That's great.
It was hilarious. But, you know, Jeff got really excited about what he was hearing when he was mixing or when he was putting other parts together. He would call me up and say, God, it's a magical moment again, you know, some of the way you're playing some of these songs. I'm like, thank you. It's a pleasure to work with Jeff.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
He knows what to do.
Just great. Absolutely great. Mick, a pleasure. And
Mitch, I want to thank you for giving me the time of day here. I really appreciate your interest. And I'd also like to thank all the fans through all those years, anyone who's been touched by Dokken music in any way, shape, or form, and enjoyed any of it. Well, that was my job, and God bless you. Yeah. And we love you. And please, if you want to hear more or get touched again by it, please come and see us. Thank you.
Right. Fly out to Japan.
Some people I know are.
There you go. As they should. Thank you, Mick. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure, Mitch.
And there you have it, folks. My interview with Wild Mick Brown of Dokken, the Reunion Tour. It is happening. It is coming. So be ready and be happy, because that's what we've been waiting for many, many years. And with that, folks, make sure to check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, and also one-on-one, Mitch Lafon on Facebook. Thank you, folks. Bye for now. Oh, my.